What is up? What is up, Libertarian YouTube family? It is the Libertarian Metaverse here, and I'm here to bring some Libertarian insight on this lovely night of political discussion. Alright, so let's talk about it, man. I'm going to be talking about voting and statism, why your vote does not matter. Hold on, give me a second. Alright, I'm back. So, yeah, I'm going to be talking about why voting does not matter to the state. I think a lot of libertarians, especially those that are in the mindset of what I believe in, they are very, very, how should I say? They're very aware of the situation at hand, of what goes on in terms of what happens in a particular situation. I think, honestly, when it comes down to it, there's just so much that you can say in terms of like what could be, the end-all be-all solution to fix everything. But oh wait, hold on, give me 1 second. Alright, I'm back. So yeah, in regards to the whole situation with just voting in general, people really tried to take the whole concept of trying to say that, voting is a solution to fix a state's problems, but in retrospect, it's not. And when people start to see the idea mindset of what voting really turns out to be, people don't expect it to be anywhere near the level of what you want to say, this is supposed to be, what it's supposed to be. And, honestly, it's not true, because, there's plenty of ideas out there where people can think voting is a good thing or it's a bad thing. But at the end of the day, when you vote, all you're doing is just giving up an opinion backed with, the gun by the state. But on top of that, your vote doesn't matter. The state does not need to listen to you if a 51% over the 49% say that slavery needs to be gone and they want it to be gone completely, that being the state completely removed. And guess what? The state's not going to listen to that, because they're going to say no. What we will do is that we will just reorganize certain laws and regulations to make it pretend as if we did listen to you, and therefore, the quote-unquote people have spoken with, democracy and any other form of political rule, because people think that's what the people want. And that's not true. That the state is a mind control warlord machine, and like any group of criminals or just a militant group of radicalist individuals, they're going to do things that content their political interests for the people that they're fearing and rule. And the thing is that when you vote, all you're doing is just pointing the gun with the state's opinions more onto your neighbor or to the people that you care about. And people may think I'm stupid, they may think like I'm not right about what I'm saying, but it's true. You can say all you want about how the state operates in terms of what you think it's not supposed to be operated and what people may perceive it to be, but at the end of the day, you're not in power. The psychopaths that are sitting in power, those are people that have been brought down by generations of other people that have been in power for thousands of years, if not hundreds of years. Because, honestly, when you look at government, it's like looking at a mafia. You see that the mafia godfather, of the family. And then you see the great-great-grandfather of this family. Then you see the great-grandmother of that family. Then you see the great-aunt of that family. Don't you see that the connection of like how, that the mafia and the state, they pretty much go hand in hand together? The only difference is just that one's wearing a political label over the other to say, oh, well, they're criminals, but we're heroes. Like, when it's clearly not true. They're both criminals. It's just that a nation state is no different from a mafia, coalition, because that's what mafias do. They have their own syndicates. They have their own governing laws of bodies. Like, obviously, it's not like it's nowhere near the level of what statism brings, but you can clearly see that every time when the state wants to expand, what they do is that they put people in a corner to fear them, to think that you have to be listening to what they have to say. And it's not true. Like, I mean, people can say all they want, but the state is not your friend. The state doesn't do anything good for you. And anything that you want to be voted into political office, it's not going to go through, because no vote is ever counted by the state officially. I mean, when people say, okay, well, what if people vote to have, I don't know, let's just say people want to vote for privatized, internet for the entire United States. That's something that markets can do right now through via black markets, but you don't need to vote that in to say, hey, government, give us permission to have the full freedom of having the internet completely privatized by free markets. That's something that the state would say no to, because the state would say, well, no, we want to have like a piece of it, and regardless of what you guys want, even though that 49% of the vote went up against your 51%, we still don't care. The democratic form of rule is not going to be the end all be all to any one solution. But on top of that, you cannot tell me that in any form of status rule, any vote has ever set anyone free. Because voting doesn't do anything for you. What voting does is that you're just pointing the gun at another group of people in which you're not responsible for it, but the state, they have full-fledged, control over you. That's what voting is. I mean, granted, you're not doing anything wrong, but the thing is that when you look at, the whole deal with voting, the problem is that you come out of your way thinking that, the world would be a lot better if you could just make it easier for yourself by having someone tell you what you can or cannot do with your life for the rest of your fucking life, as if you are a slave to a slave master. That is what I call cognitive dissonance and slavery dissonance. And what I mean by that is that when you have enslaved dissonance of your own, of your own wretched past, what you end up doing is that you start reverting to being a cowardice slave. That's what it is. A cowardice imprisoned slave, or imprisoned-minded slave. And the thing is that when you look at political history, out of all civilizations, what ends up happening in every civilization that ends up into political turmoil is that people keep submitting to the same power vacuum coming in. People say that they want change. They say that, oh, well, this empire wasn't doing good for us. We want like a brand new empire. And then what ends up happening is that when they say that they want to have a revolution and start changing things in political power, what ends up happening is that you just invite a brand new power vacuum that comes in, and then boom. You don't have like a say in the vote for you to have people in power, because that doesn't exist. What exists is that you have people that were already, electing themselves to be in power. And, but the thing is that, when you look at it from a layman's perspective, every political state that has been formed in the world, and, in the eyes of government, because the state has really only been around for 5,000 years, if not probably a little bit more, but human history has shown, with statism being such a destructive religion, that no state has ever formed itself voluntarily. That is a fact. You cannot tell me states are formed through voluntary association. No, states are formed through involuntary association. And what I mean by that is that you are using vigilant force to tell people what to do, to make them feel scared, to make them feel, how should I say, to make them feel cornered into a trap to say, okay, well, if I fight back, then what happens is that I'm going to die. And, that's a reasonable thing to think of because you're one person against millions of other people, or if not just thousands of people, because not everybody thinks like that. I mean, if the whole world thought like that, then honestly, statism would have been completely destroyed, at the start of human history if mankind was thinking about governing bodies at the time of being cavemen. Because at that time frame, humans weren't even close to even thinking about statism at that time frame. At that time frame, that's everyday anarchism where people lived their lives and people had their own certain rules and regulations of what they wanted in their own tribal communities. But I mean, that's like a whole nother segment of like what people try to say is not considered human because of primitivist actions. And they start using like the evolution argument to say, oh well, humans were not completely evolved because of the ape like yeah, like I'm not gonna go there. But the whole thing is that when you vote in today's modernistic realm of what we live in the human world, we cannot say voting is a helpful strategy, because voting by its own definition is that you are just giving consent. Well, no, you're not even giving consent. You're letting somebody else tell you what to do by way of pretending you give consent, where you give no means of your own control of yourself to what you want, and therefore you're letting somebody else point a weapon out of arbitrary force to make your life better, if not worse, for the long run. Because that's what voting is. Voting may not seem vigilant at first, but voting is it's a cursed deed that the state gives to people to say, hey, you don't like what's happening? Okay, well, it's okay. Because every 4 years, if not how many years the next election cycle goes, you can just vote for the next guy. You can vote for this other person. How about you vote for this candidate? Vote for the Green Party. Vote for the, Guadalupe Upa Party. Like vote for all these people because you know what's going to happen. They're going to keep getting stronger. You're going to keep giving more rights or giving more freedoms away, not rights. But when you think about it, you're not free, because what is happening with the state is that the more you keep surrendering to the state as a mass population of humans that outnumber the state every damn day, you are allowing more political insanity be arisen from the state's you know obligatory actions, where they're just using humans or using statists that are foolish enough to believe in what they say to them, and just go basically with the flow. I mean, there's a reason why cities in America don't do good, because like the bigger they are, like, I mean, obviously, like the bigger they are, like the more problems that like emerge. But cities that have like the highest crime rates with like the worst, lowest, most destructive groups of people that come out of their way to do a lot of insane criminalized shit, those people are the people that will go back to the state and say, oh, government, give me something because my people are fucking up. Like, that's what they're doing. That's what these assholes are doing to you. They're basically screwing you in the ass, and they're telling you what you don't want to hear is true, because they're basically fooling you while you're being fooled to think that they're helping you. And honestly, like, the sad thing like about it is that governments all over the world do this. It's not just like America. It's not just certain first world countries. It's simply due to like the fact that you have people that come out of their way and say, the most ludicrous things ever. And The problem is just that when you think about it, you don't have any, political freedom, with your vote. Because if you did have the ability to vote with power, people would all work for the state. Like, that's how it should be, right? But that's not true because no state's like that. But I mean, even when libertarians talk about statism to a certain level of saying, okay, well, like, I'm obviously talking about like the faker, libertarians, but, like the libertarians that are advocating for small government, or they're fucking, like a fucking what? I call them minarchists, fakertarians, because that's really what they are. They're just basically libertarian. Yeah, they're fake libertarians, or they're pseudo libertarians that are closet Republicans, if not conservatives. But I mean, that's just really who they are. These are right wing dumbasses that are just as stupid as left wingers. But the problem is that they want small government, but they want to have the vote be localized, where people can overview the state. And what happens with that is that you have like a night watchman state, which that's why all these weird constitutionalist retards say, oh well, America used to be a very, very small government. um no, America was still a pretty damn big government at the time of the colonial empire of the 13 colonies. It may not have been super duper gigantic, but no, within less than 100 years since the United States Constitution was even ratified in 1788 or 1789. This is like predating after the American Revolutionary War, somewhere between those years. But when the Constitution was finally recognized by the Brits, along with all the other Western European and Eastern European nations that were barely even forming at the time, America was still going to war with other parts of the world. They were still wanting to invade other countries, such as Panama, invading Cuba, invading Jamaica, invading Puerto Rico, invading all these small ass little islands where they think that they could just run them over, including the Philippines, over in Asia. That was before the American Civil War. Yeah, I think that was before or after the American Civil War, but still, you can easily tell that all these crazy federalized actions that the United States federal government did, there was no vote holding the government back. So when people say like, "Oh, you have a vote to control the state," you do not have a damn vote to control what the state does. The state does not care about what anybody says to it, or more so to the people that are in it. It's the people. But when people say, "Oh no, well, how you fix this is that you just have to get, the right candidates in there," motherfucker, it's always going to be the same dumbasses getting into office. If you haven't known already, you're going to know very, very quickly that no matter who's in power, it's always the people that are psychopathically retarded that get in. It's never people that are intellectual with understanding the state's power. But then again, no one should be getting into power. No stranger that you've never met before should be telling you, as the president or the governor or whatever political label that they want to throw onto their fucking name, to say that they are entitled to tell you what to do. Because what that means is that you are not responsible as your own well-being as a human. And you're basically saying that you just want to be a worthless piece of shit where the state points a gun at you, and then when it's time for you to die, they're going to pass up the same traits off to your children, to your grandchildren, to your great-great-grandchildren. Like, this is how generations get built off of statism. You have to train the young to be subservient, to the parents. But the parents have to be trained by their parents to be, dependent slaves. Like, that's really what it is. But whenever you have that one black sheep out of your family, where that black sheep does work against your family's interests, That is how the state trains you to say, no, you can't, treat your family member with any respect or any, clarity of like what they believed in to disagree with your stance. You actually have to treat them like crap and whatnot. But that's how, everything works, because what ends up happening is that you have people that operate themselves in a certain way through statism, where everything that the state says is completely valid to them, and no matter what the state does, people come out of their way doing really, insane, insane shit. So I mean, either way, it's like it's just case in point to show that you don't have any protection with what you have. And the sad thing about it is that when you come out of your way to do things that you think that are okay, that the state doesn't like, they will naturally come after you for the sake of using you as a target to shame everyone that sees you doing something right versus doing something wrong. They praise it because that's what they do. Every time when the state thinks that it's okay to, spy on people, and you fighting against that is considered a crime when the state tries to spy on you. But then when you try to spy on them of what they do to you, they could use that as a crime against you, and people don't vote for that. People don't have any power to even regulate that, because the state will always use any means of politicized control regardless of the people's voice, because whatever you may say is considered, like considered a voice in political theory. That's never to be true, because no country has ever changed its civilization through voting. Like, any political change within a country most likely happened through the means of political violence, because when states continue to not listen to their people, or I should say, when state officials that work for the state continue not to listen to their own populace for what they demand, what ends up happening is that the populace themselves demand answers, and then they're going to start using violence for the sake of using what they believe in terms of what is considered a rightful means of justice. That's why when you see any politicized group out there like Antifa or all these communist weirdos that come in quote unquote peace, where they're coming out of their way wanting political change for their communist action or communist beliefs, like, these people always come out of their way doing the most heinous, insane things ever. But the more people that they get involved, the state slowly buys into it, because the people that are in the state that make laws, or the people that come out of their way being a political, legislative branch, politician, manager, I don't know. Like, these people do this all the damn time. These motherfuckers that are probably getting paid millions upon, gajillion dollars to screw your life over, while they can break the fucking rules and get away with it, because they're political lawmakers. They're protected by all forms of, federalized court at the Supreme Court level and at the state, level. But it's like, whenever you do something that the state doesn't like, they always come after you for it. And on top of that, people don't vote anything to overturn anything. Whenever people say like, oh well, if there's an injustice, people can come together to overturn a certain decision made by the court, blah blah blah. No, like, nothing of that shit happens, because courts are monopolized entities of the state. And on top of that, whenever you vote on any policy, that the state, quote unquote, gives you the option to vote for, which, I mean, people don't vote on laws that are being made by the lawmakers. But, if we're talking about the American, political system, laws are obviously, created by the legislative lawmakers that make their laws through the legislative branch, and then it gets, reviewed by the, judicial branch and then executive to determine if that law is going to be passed or not through the Senate and then through Supreme Court, I believe, because Supreme Court has to, honor that if any vote is being put in for that, for that bill. And I mean, that's always, the key notion of what happens when you get into political power. But either way, like, I mean, back to what I was saying, like, voting does not save anybody's lives in any event of where the state gets, politically, politically tribal over what they believe in. And that's just not the sad truth, because no state has any power in terms of what the people are brainwashed with. And I mean, that's really how the state keeps its credibility up, because it's all about brainwashing. But if you didn't have that brainwashing there in the first place, I think statism definitely would have evolved into a much better philosophy. So that's pretty much how I see it. But yeah, man, let me know what you guys think. And yeah, I'm out. Peace out. And I'll see you guys later. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thank you.